The crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across the ballroom floor. Natalie Winter stood frozen in her emerald dress, champagne glass trembling in her hand. She didn't belong here among Manhattan's glittering elite, and she knew it. Then she felt him. A weight of attention that raised the hair on her neck. Across the crowded room, a man watched her with an intensity that stole her breath. Silver threaded through his dark hair. His suit was perfectly tailored, his presence magnetic. He moved through the crowd like he owned the very air. Natalie Winter. His voice was smooth whiskey when he reached her. I'm Damien Cross. Your design for the Riverside complex was extraordinary. Heat crawled up her throat. You know my work? I make it my business to know remarkable things. His gaze traveled over her face with deliberate appreciation. And you, Miss Winter, are quite remarkable. She wasn't prepared for this. For being seen. For years, she'd hidden behind blueprints and 12-hour workdays, convincing herself that success could fill the hollow spaces in her chest. Tell me something, Damien said, leaning closer. The scent of cedar and something darker surrounded her. When you design a building, do you think about the lives inside it? The moments that will unfold there? Always. The word came out breathless. Architecture is about creating spaces where people can become who they're meant to be. And what about your space? His hand brushed hers, sending electricity through her veins. What kind of life are you creating for yourself? The question cracked something open inside her. She looked away, suddenly exposed. I don't know anymore. His fingers caught her chin, gently turning her face back to his. Perhaps it's time to remember. The auction proceeded around them, but Natalie heard none of it. All she knew was this man who seemed to see straight through her carefully constructed walls. Join me on the terrace, he murmured. It wasn't quite a question. She nodded before her cautious mind could object. The night air hit her flushed skin as they stepped outside. The city sprawled below them, a sea of lights against velvet darkness. Damien stood close enough that she felt his warmth. I haven't done this in years, she admitted. Just stopped. Breathed. Felt alive. Why not? I was afraid. The confession tumbled out raw and unfiltered. Afraid that if I stopped moving, stopped achieving, I'd realize how empty everything had become. Damien turned to face her fully. Look at me, Natalie. When she met his eyes, she saw understanding there. And desire. And something that looked dangerously like tenderness. You're not empty, he said quietly. You're dormant. Like a garden waiting for spring. He stepped closer, near enough that she could see flecks of gold in his dark eyes. Let me remind you what it feels like to bloom. The space between them hummed with possibility. Natalie stood at a crossroads. She could retreat into her safe, lonely world. Or she could step forward into the unknown. Into him. His hand cupped her face. Tell me you feel this too. I feel it. Her voice broke on the words. God help me, I feel everything. When his lips met hers, the city disappeared. There was only his mouth, his hands in her hair, the way her body came alive against his like she'd been sleeping for years and finally woke up. He pulled back just enough to whisper against her lips, "Come home with me tonight." Every rational thought screamed at her to say no. But when she opened her mouth, different words emerged. Yes. They never made it to his penthouse. In the car, his mouth found her throat, her collarbone, the sensitive hollow behind her ear. She gasped, fingers digging into his shoulders as the city lights blurred past the windows. Damien. His name was a prayer and a plea. Say it again. His voice was rough, desperate. Say my name like that again. Damien. The driver pulled up to a glass tower that seemed to pierce the sky. Damien led her through a private elevator, his hand possessive at the small of her back. The doors had barely closed before he pressed her against the mirrored wall, his body a delicious weight against hers. "Tell me to stop," he breathed against her mouth. "Tell me this is moving too fast." She pulled him closer instead. "Don't you dare stop." The elevator chimed. 68th floor. His penthouse was all floor-to-ceiling windows and shadows. But Natalie barely noticed. She was too focused on the way he looked at her, like she was the only real thing in a world of illusions. "I need you to understand something," Damien said, backing her toward the windows. The city glittered below them, a universe of light. "After tonight, everything changes. There's no going back to who you were before." Something in his tone sent a shiver down her spine. Warning or promise, she couldn't tell. "Maybe I don't want to go back," she whispered. His smile was slow, dangerous. "Good." His hands found the zipper of her emerald dress. The fabric whispered to the floor. And then there were no more words. Only sensation. His mouth on her skin, her fingers threading through his hair, the sound of their breathing harsh in the quiet. The windows were cold against her back as he lifted her, his hands sure and claiming. "Look at me," he commanded softly. "I want to see your eyes when you let go." She couldn't look away if she tried. Later, tangled in silk sheets with the city lights painting patterns on his ceiling, Natalie felt something shift inside her. Like a lock turning. Like a door opening to a room she'd kept sealed for years. Damien traced circles on her bare shoulder. "What are you thinking? That I don't even know you?" She laughed, but it came out shaky. "And somehow, that doesn't scare me as much as it should." His hand stilled. When she turned to look at him, his expression had changed. Shuddered. "Careful." "Damien? What is it?" "There are things about me you don't know, Natalie. Things that might change how you see this." He gestured between them. "Change how you see me." Her heart kicked against her ribs. "Then tell me." "I can't. Not yet." He pulled her closer, almost desperately. "Just give me tonight. Give me this one perfect night before everything gets complicated." The plea in his voice made her chest ache. "You're scaring me." "I know." He pressed his forehead to hers. "I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry." Before she could ask what he meant, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Once. Twice. 3 times in rapid succession. Damien went rigid. "Don't answer it," Natalie whispered, sensing that whoever was calling would shatter this fragile moment. But he was already reaching for it. His face went pale as he read the screen. "What's wrong?" He stood abruptly, pulling on his pants with mechanical precision. The warmth was gone from his eyes, replaced by something cold and distant. "You need to leave." The words hit her like a slap. "What?" "I'll call you a car." He wouldn't meet her eyes. This was a mistake. Natalie sat up, clutching the sheet to her chest. "A mistake? Damien, what the hell is happening?" "Please, Natalie." Now his voice cracked, revealing the man beneath the mask. "Just go. Before this gets worse. Before I hurt you more than I already have. You're not making any sense." He finally looked at her, and what she saw in his face made her blood run cold. Anguish. Guilt. And beneath it all, fear. "I'm not who you think I am," he said quietly. "And the people I answer to just reminded me that tonight should never have happened." Her mind raced. "The people you answer to? Damien, what are you involved in? Don't ask questions I can't answer." He tossed her dress to her, his jaw tight. "Get dressed. The car will be downstairs in 5 minutes." Natalie pulled on her clothes with shaking hands, humiliation burning through her. How had she been so stupid? How had she let herself believe that someone like him could actually see something real in someone like her? At the door, she turned back. Damien stood by the window, his back to her, shoulders rigid. Was any of it real? Her voice broke. The things you said. The way you looked at me. Was any of it real? A long silence. Then, that's the problem, Natalie. It was all real. Every word. Every touch. Every moment. Then why? Because real doesn't matter when the cost is too high. He turned, and she saw tears tracking down his face. And you have no idea how high the cost would be. The elevator doors closed on his devastated expression. Natalie made it to the lobby before the tears came. She stood on the sidewalk in her wrinkled emerald dress, the taste of him still on her lips, and wondered how a night that felt like waking up could end feeling like dying. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I'm sorry. But this isn't over. Meet me tomorrow. Same place we met. 8 p.m. Come alone. Trust no one. Especially not me. Below it, another message appeared. Your life depends on it. Natalie didn't sleep. She sat in her apartment watching dawn bleed across the skyline, Damien's cryptic message burning a hole in her phone. Your life depends on it. The words circled her mind like vultures. By noon, exhaustion made her reckless. She called the only person who might understand. You look like hell, Claire said when she arrived, setting down coffee and concern. What happened after I left the auction? Natalie told her everything. The terrace, the penthouse, the sudden dismissal, the threatening message. Claire's face went pale. Natalie, Damien Cross isn't just some billionaire businessman. What do you mean? My firm did background checks when he tried to acquire our parent company last year. Claire pulled out her phone, fingers flying. He's connected to the Moretti family. Old money. Very old, very dirty money. Real estate, construction, shipping. And those are just the legitimate fronts. The coffee turned to acid in Natalie's stomach. You're saying he's in the mafia? I'm saying his family built half of Manhattan on blood and concrete. Damien supposedly went legitimate 5 years ago, but you don't just walk away from that world. Claire gripped her hand. Don't go tonight. Whatever this is, it's dangerous. But Natalie was already shaking her head. He said my life depends on it. Then call the police. And tell them what? That a man I slept with sent me a cryptic text. She stood, pacing. No. I have to know what this is about. I have to know if any of it was real. Nat. Claire's voice broke. What if it was all a con? What if he targeted you for some reason we don't understand yet? The thought had kept Natalie awake all night. But beneath the fear and humiliation, something else whispered. The way Damien had looked at her when he said goodbye. The tears on his face. The raw pain in his voice. That wasn't acting. She'd stake her life on it. Maybe she already had. The grand ballroom looked different in daylight. Empty. Hollow. Like a stage after the actors had gone home. Natalie arrived at 7:30, her heart hammering against her ribs. At exactly 8, Damien appeared in the doorway. He looked worse than she felt. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes red-rimmed. He crossed the empty room like a man walking to his execution. You came. Relief and regret warred in his voice. You said my life depended on it. So talk. He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture achingly familiar. Last night shouldn't have happened. I broke every rule I set for myself when I walked away from my family's business. Claire told me about the Morettis. His jaw tightened. Of course she did. Then you know what I am. What I come from. I know what your family is. I'm asking what you are. I'm trying to be something different. The words came out raw. 5 years ago, I told my father I was done. Done with the violence, the corruption, the blood money. I wanted to build something legitimate. Something I could be proud of. And he let you go? Damien's laugh was bitter. My father doesn't let anyone go. We made a deal. I could pursue legitimate business, but I still owed him favors. Information. Access. Introductions. He met her eyes. Last night, I was supposed to introduce him to someone at that auction. A city councilman he needs in his pocket for a zoning deal. Understanding crashed over her. But you met me instead. I saw you across that room, and everything else disappeared. His voice dropped to a whisper. For the first time in 5 years, I forgot what I owed. I forgot the price of freedom. I only saw you. And your father found out. My father's men are always watching. Always reporting back. He stepped closer, urgent now. The calls last night were warnings. He knows I was with you instead of doing what he sent me to do. And now he's asking questions about who you are, what you mean to me. Natalie's blood ran cold. What does that mean for me? It means your leverage. The words came out like broken glass. It means I put a target on your back the moment I touched you. The moment I let myself care. So what do we do? We? He shook his head violently. There is no we, Natalie. You walk away. You forget you ever met me. You go back to your life and your blueprints and you stay the hell away from me. And if I don't want to? The question hung between them like a lit fuse. Then you're a fool. But even as he said it, his hand reached for her face, trembling against her cheek. Because I am the worst thing that could happen to someone like you. I'm poison, Natalie. Beautiful, deadly poison. She covered his hand with hers. Then why warn me? Why not just let me go? Because despite everything I am and everything I've done, I couldn't let you walk into danger without knowing the truth. His thumb brushed her lower lip. And because last night meant something. It was real. All of it. Then help me understand. If your father sees me as leverage, what does he want? Damien's expression hardened. There's a development project. Luxury condos on the waterfront. My father needs it approved, but there are environmental concerns, community opposition. He needs someone with credibility to redesign the plans. Someone respected. Someone like you. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. That's why you approached me. You were targeting me from the beginning. No. He gripped her shoulders. Yes. God, I don't know anymore. I was supposed to research you, see if you could be useful. But then I read your work, saw your designs, watched interviews where you talked about creating spaces for people to thrive. His voice cracked. You believe in something beautiful. Something I forgot existed. And when I saw you last night, so out of place and so achingly perfect, I stopped thinking like a Moretti and started feeling like a man. I don't believe you. But her voice wavered. I know. I wouldn't believe me either. He released her, stepping back. But believe this, my father will use you whether you help him or not. If you refuse, he'll destroy your firm. Ruin your reputation. Make sure you never design another building in this city. And if I cooperate? Then you become complicit. You design buildings on blood money. You become part of the machine I've spent 5 years trying to escape. Natalie's mind raced. There has to be another way. There isn't. I've been looking for one since the moment I realized what you meant to me. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. This is everything I have on my father's operation. Bank accounts, property records, witness statements. Enough to bring down his empire. She stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Why are you giving this to me? Because you have to choose. His eyes were haunted. Work with my father and keep your career but lose your soul. Or take this to the FBI and watch me go down with the rest of my family. You? But you said you went legitimate. 5 years of favors, Natalie. 5 years of dirty deals I can't walk back. I'm not innocent. I'm just less guilty than the rest of them. He pressed the envelope into her hands. But maybe, with your testimony, they'd be lenient. Maybe I'd only serve 5 years instead of 20. You're asking me to send you to prison. I'm asking you to save yourself. Even if it means destroying me. His voice broke. Because that's what love is, isn't it? Wanting someone to survive, even if you're the cost. The word love hit her like a physical blow. You can't say that. Not now. Not like this. I can't not say it. He cupped her face with both hands, his eyes bright with unshed tears. I've never truly loved before. Never understood what it meant to want someone's happiness more than your own survival. But then you walked into my life in that emerald dress, and suddenly I understood what people fight for. What they die for. Damien. She was crying now too. There has to be another way. If there is, I haven't found it. And I've been looking. He pressed his forehead to hers. So choose, Natalie. Choose the path that keeps you safe. Even if it means I never see you again. A sound from the doorway made them both freeze. How touching. A man stepped from the shadows. Older, with silver hair and Damien's eyes set in a face carved from granite. Behind him, 3 men in dark suits. Father. Damien moved in front of Natalie instinctively. This isn't what it looks like. Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like. Vincent Moretti's smile was a knife's edge. My son, falling for a mark. Again. Again? Natalie's voice came out small. Vincent's laugh was cold. You didn't tell her? How 2 years ago, you fell for a prosecutor's daughter. How you almost gave her everything until we reminded you what betrayal costs. Damien's face had gone white. That was different. Was it? Because from where I stand, history is repeating itself. Except this time, I'm not waiting for you to make another mistake. Vincent pulled out a phone, showing them a photo. Claire, walking into a coffee shop that morning. Your friend is very predictable, Miss Winter. She takes the same route every day. Stops at the same cafe. Terror flooded Natalie's veins. If you hurt her, then you'll do exactly what I say. Vincent's voice was pleasant, conversational. You'll redesign the Riverview development. You'll make it brilliant and unassailable. And you'll testify before the zoning board that it's the best thing for this city. And if I refuse? Then your friend has a tragic accident. And you, Miss Winter, discover that buildings aren't the only things that can be demolished. He glanced at Damien. Take her home, son. Make sure she understands what's at stake. You have 48 hours to convince her. Don't make me doubt your loyalty again. The men filed out, leaving Damien and Natalie alone in the echoing ballroom. The prosecutor's daughter, Natalie said quietly. What happened to her? Damien's silence was answer enough. He killed her, didn't he? Your father killed her because of you. He made it look like a car accident. The words were hollow. Her brakes failed on a mountain road. They said she was driving too fast. But I knew. I've always known. Natalie backed away from him, the envelope falling from her nerveless fingers. And you were going to let me walk into the same trap? No. He reached for her, desperate. This time it's different. This time I have a plan. What plan? Feed me to your father while you play the dutiful son? The plan where I finally do the right thing. He picked up the envelope, forcing it back into her hands. Take this to the FBI. Tell them I'll testify against my father in exchange for witness protection. For both of us. Both of us? You think I'm letting you face this alone? His grip on her wrists was almost painful. I got you into this. I'm getting you out. Even if it costs me everything. Why should I trust you? You've lied to me since the moment we met. Because despite every lie, every manipulation, every calculated move, I fell in love with you anyway. His voice broke. And that was the one thing I never planned for. The one thing I can't take back. Natalie looked at the envelope, then at the man before her. Broken. Desperate. Dangerous. And somehow, against all logic, still the person who made her feel most alive. Tell me one true thing, she whispered. One thing that wasn't part of the plan. He pulled her close, his mouth hovering over hers. When I kissed you on that terrace, I forgot my own name. I forgot my father's empire. I forgot everything except the taste of you and the way you trembled in my arms. That was real. That was all real. The kiss was different this time. Not passionate or desperate, but tender. Like a goodbye and a promise wrapped together. When he pulled back, his eyes were clear. Resolved. Go home. Pack a bag. Meet me at the address inside the envelope tomorrow at midnight. If I'm not there by 12:30, take everything to the FBI and run. And if you are there? Then we disappear together. New names. New lives. No more Moretus. No more blood money. Just us. It was insane. Impossible. Everything she'd built, everything she'd worked for, gone in an instant. But as she looked at Damien's face, she realized she'd already made her choice. Somewhere between the ballroom and the penthouse and the moment he cried while sending her away, she'd stopped being the woman who played it safe. Tomorrow at midnight, she agreed. He kissed her forehead. I'm sorry I dragged you into this nightmare. I'm not. The word surprised them both. Because for the first time in years, I feel something other than empty. Even if it's terrified. A sad smile touched his lips. Terrified is better than numb. Is it? Ask me again when we're on the other side. She left him standing in the empty ballroom, silhouetted against the fading light. As she stepped into the street, her phone buzzed. A text from Claire, where are you? We need to talk. Now. Another text, from an unknown number, don't trust him. It's a trap. Call me. Agent Sarah Chen, FBI. Natalie stared at both messages, her heart pounding. Who was telling the truth? And who was leading her to her death? Natalie sat in her apartment, the envelope on her coffee table like a bomb waiting to detonate. 3 messages glowed on her phone. Claire's urgent plea. The FBI agent's warning. And one more that had just arrived from Damien, trust no one but your instincts. See you tomorrow. Her instincts. The same instincts that had led her into a billionaire's arms and straight into a crime family's crosshairs. She called Claire first. Thank God. Claire sounded breathless. Don't go home. Actually, wait, you're already there, aren't you? Damn it, Natalie. What's going on? I've been digging into Damien Cross since this morning. The man is a ghost. Nothing before 5 years ago except sealed juvenile records and a Swiss bank account that moves money faster than water. Claire's voice dropped. But I found something else. The prosecutor's daughter he supposedly loved? She wasn't killed. She disappeared. Natalie's blood froze. What? Jessica Hartman. 28. Assistant DA working organized crime cases. 2 years ago, she vanished the same week Damien allegedly left his family's business. No body. No evidence. Just gone. Maybe she went into hiding. Or maybe Damien isn't the reformed criminal he claims to be. Papers rustled on Claire's end. I'm sending you an address. Meet me there in an hour. Don't tell anyone where you're going. The call ended before Natalie could respond. Her phone buzzed again. The FBI number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Miss Winter? The woman's voice was professional, controlled. This is Agent Sarah Chen. I've been investigating the Moretti family for 3 years. Damien Cross is my primary witness. Your witness? But he said. He's been working with us for 18 months. Everything he's doing, the deals with his father, the favors, it's all been under our supervision. We're building a RICO case that will dismantle the entire organization. A pause. But something's changed. 2 days ago, Damien stopped reporting in. And now we have intel that suggests he's about to run. Natalie's mind raced. What does this have to do with me? You're his exit strategy. He's going to use you to disappear, and when he does, 3 years of investigation goes up in smoke. Worse, his father will assume you know everything. You'll be a liability they need to eliminate. So what do you want me to do? Wear a wire tomorrow night. Let him think you're running with him. We'll be listening. When he leads us to his escape route, we move in. You'll be safe, the case stays intact, and Damien Cross finally faces justice. And if I refuse? Agent Chen's voice hardened. Then you're an accessory to organized crime. I'll have no choice but to bring you in for questioning. Your firm will be investigated. Your reputation destroyed. Is that what you want? The call ended. Natalie sat in the silence, 3 different versions of truth spinning in her head. Each person claimed to be protecting her. Each person needed her to trust them. But who was lying? She opened the envelope Damien had given her. Bank records, property deeds, photographs of meetings between Vincent Moretti and city officials. Enough evidence to prosecute. But underneath it all, a single photograph. Damien and a woman with dark hair and a brilliant smile. On the back, in faded ink, Jessica, the day I chose love over fear. The woman who disappeared. The woman who supposedly died. Natalie's phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. Not Agent Chen's. If you want the truth about Damien Cross, come to Pier 47. Warehouse 12. Come alone. I'm risking everything to tell you this. Jessica. Her hands shook as she typed back, how do I know this isn't a trap? The response came instantly, you don't. But neither do I. That's what trust is, right? Blind faith in someone who could destroy you. Isn't that what you're giving Damien? Natalie grabbed her keys. Pier 47 smelled of salt and rust and things left to rot. Warehouse 12 loomed against the night sky, windows dark except for a single light on the 2nd floor. Every survival instinct screamed at her to turn back. But she was already climbing the metal stairs, already pushing open the rusted door. A woman sat in a pool of lamplight. Dark hair, sharp eyes, the same woman from the photograph. Alive. Jessica Hartman? Not anymore. The woman's smile was bitter. That girl died 2 years ago. Now I'm just another ghost in Damien Cross's wake. Natalie stayed by the door, muscles coiled to run. He said his father killed you. He wishes. Jessica stood, and Natalie saw the gun on the table beside her. The truth is so much worse. Sit. You deserve to know what you're walking into. Against her judgment, Natalie sat. I was an ADA. Young, ambitious, determined to bring down the Morettis. I went after Damien first, thinking he'd be the weak link. The son who wanted out. Jessica's laugh was hollow. And he played me perfectly. The tortured heir. The man torn between duty and desire. He made me believe he loved me. Made me believe we'd bring down his father together. But he was lying. Worse. He was telling the truth. He did love me. And that made the betrayal so much more devastating. Jessica picked up the gun, checking the chamber with practiced ease. We plan to run. Just like he's planning with you. New identities. New lives. He gave me an address to meet him at. Told me to bring all the evidence I'd gathered. Natalie's stomach dropped. What happened? I showed up early. Eager. Stupid. Jessica's eyes were distant, haunted. And I saw him. Meeting with his father. Handing over everything I'd given him. Every witness statement. Every piece of evidence. Vincent Moretti walked away with enough information to destroy every case I'd been building. Why would Damien do that? Because that was the deal. His freedom in exchange for me. Vincent agreed to let Damien go legitimate, as long as Damien delivered the prosecutor's daughter on a silver platter. Jessica's voice cracked. He chose his freedom over my life. Over justice. Over everything we'd promised each other. But you escaped. Barely. I ran before they could find me. Faked my death. Been in hiding ever since. She met Natalie's eyes. And now he's doing it again. Same play. Different actress. How does it feel to be the next Jessica Hartman? The words hit like a fist to the gut. You don't know that. Don't I? Jessica slid a folder across the table. FBI surveillance photos from this morning. Your friend Claire. Damien met with her 3 hours ago. Natalie's hands shook as she opened the folder. Clear photos of Damien and Claire sitting in a coffee shop, heads close together, serious expressions. Why would he meet with Claire? Because she's an attorney. Because he needs legal protection when this all goes south. Or because she knows something about you that he can use. Jessica leaned forward. Wake up, Natalie. Men like Damien Cross don't change. They just get better at lying. Then why tell me this? Why risk exposing yourself? Because I don't want his next victim's death on my conscience. Because maybe, unlike me, you'll see the trap before you walk into it. Jessica stood. Tomorrow at midnight, when you meet him at whatever address he gave you, his father's men will be waiting. They'll get everything you know, and then you'll disappear. Just like I did. Except you won't be lucky enough to escape. Natalie's mind reeled. How do you know about tomorrow? Because I still have contacts in the FBI. Because Agent Chen is Vincent Moretti's niece. Because this entire thing has been a setup from the beginning. Jessica's voice turned urgent. Don't meet him tomorrow. Don't trust the FBI. Take whatever evidence you have and run. Get out of New York. Change your name. Disappear. And spend my life looking over my shoulder? Better than not having a life at all. Natalie stood, her legs unsteady. I don't know what to believe anymore. Then believe this, Damien Cross is a survivor. And survivors like him only care about one thing. Themselves. Jessica's expression softened slightly. I know what it feels like. To want so desperately for the lie to be true. To believe that this time, with you, he'll be different. But he won't. Men like him can't change. They can only pretend long enough to get what they need. Natalie walked to the door, her hand on the rusted metal. One question, she said without turning. If he betrayed you so completely, why do you still have his picture in your wallet? The silence stretched too long. Get out, Jessica whispered. Natalie ran down the metal stairs, her heart pounding. Nothing made sense. Everyone was lying. Or everyone was telling the truth from different angles. Her phone buzzed. Damien. Something's wrong. They know about tomorrow. Don't come to the address I gave you. New plan. I'll contact you in 2 hours. Stay somewhere public. Stay safe. I love you. Another message. Claire. Where are you? We need to talk about Damien. I have proof he's been lying. Meet me at my office. Now. Another. Agent Chen. We've lost visual on Vincent Moretti. He's on the move. I'm sending a protective detail to your apartment. Do not leave. Do not trust any communication from Damien Cross. And finally, one more. Unknown number. You met with Jessica. Good. Now you know what he is. But there's one more thing she didn't tell you. Ask Damien about the baby. Ask him what his father did to make sure Jessica stayed silent. A friend. Natalie stopped on the street corner, the city lights blurring through her tears. A baby. Jessica had been pregnant. Her phone rang. Damien. She answered, her voice hollow. Tell me about Jessica's baby. The silence on the other end was deafening. Natalie, where are you? His voice was tight, controlled. Who have you been talking to? Answer the question. It's not what you think. Then what is it? She was shouting now, pedestrians giving her wide berth. What did your father do? What did you do? I protected her. The words came out broken. I made a choice. The worst choice of my life. But I protected her. By giving her to your father? By making sure she lived. Now he was shouting too. You don't understand. You can't understand what my father is capable of. He knew about the pregnancy before I did. He had plans. Terrible plans. So I made a deal. The evidence. Yes. The evidence, her testimony, everything she'd gathered. In exchange for her life and the life of her child. He agreed to let her disappear. To fake her death. To never look for her. His voice cracked. I gave up justice. I gave up the one chance to bring him down. I gave up the woman I loved. All to save her. You're lying. I'm not. He sounded desperate now. Jessica is alive. The baby, a little girl, is alive. They're in Oregon under new names. Protected. Safe. Because I chose their survival over everything else. She said you betrayed her. I did betray her. I betrayed her trust. I let her think I was weak enough to sell her out. I let her hate me. Because if she knew the truth, she'd never have run. She'd have tried to fight. And she would have died. He took a shaky breath. So I let her think the worst of me. I let her believe I never loved her. Because her hate kept her alive. Natalie's legs gave out. She sat on the cold pavement, the phone pressed to her ear. How do I know you're not lying now? You don't. That's the thing about trust, Natalie. It's a choice you make even when every rational thought says not to. His voice softened. But I'll prove it. Come to the new address. Not the one I gave you before. That one's compromised. I'll text you coordinates. Come alone. If I'm lying, if this is all a trap, you'll know within 5 minutes. And you can walk away. And if it's not? Then we save each other. Together. The call ended. A text arrived with coordinates to a location across the river in Queens. Another text from Jessica, don't believe him. He's evolved past simple lies into beautiful fiction. The baby died. I almost died. He's a monster in a bespoke suit. Claire, I'm at the FBI field office. Damien just turned himself in. They're arresting him now. It's over. Agent Chen, disregard my previous messages. Meet me at the safe house. We've been compromised. Trust no one. Natalie looked at her phone, at the conflicting messages, at the web of lies and truth so tangled she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. 4 different stories. 4 different versions of Damien Cross. The monster. The hero. The liar. The sacrifice. Who was real? Thunder rumbled overhead. Rain began to fall, cold and cleansing. Natalie stood, water streaming down her face, and made her choice. She typed coordinates into her phone and started walking toward the subway. Toward the truth. Or toward her death. At this point, she wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. The coordinates led to an abandoned church in Queens. Rain hammered the broken stained glass as Natalie pushed open the heavy wooden door. Inside smelled of mildew and forgotten prayers. A single candle flickered near the altar. You came. Damien emerged from the shadows. His face was bruised, his lips split. I wasn't sure you would. Natalie kept her distance, every muscle coiled to run. Start talking. And this time, I want the whole truth. The whole truth will destroy us both. We're already destroyed. Tell me anyway. He nodded slowly, wincing at some injury she couldn't see. My father didn't let me walk away 5 years ago. He made me an offer. I could go legitimate, build my own empire, as long as I remained his asset. Information. Access. Occasionally, a person he needed influenced or eliminated. Eliminated. The word tasted like ash. I never killed anyone. That's the one line I wouldn't cross. But I pointed him toward people who deserved it. Rivals. Traitors. Men as bad as he was. Damien's voice was hollow. I told myself it made me different. Better. But blood on my hands by proxy is still blood. And Jessica? Jessica was my attempt at redemption. I thought if I could help her bring him down, I could finally be free. But my father found out. He didn't threaten her life. He threatened everyone she loved. Her mother. Her younger brother. The baby she didn't even know she was carrying yet. He leaned against a pew, exhausted. He showed me surveillance photos. Her family's daily routines. Weak points in their security. He made it very clear what would happen if I didn't deliver her to him. So you chose their lives over justice. I chose survival over principles. Which makes me exactly what my father raised me to be. He met her eyes. Jessica hates me. She should. I earned that hatred by letting her believe I betrayed her for money and power. It was kinder than the truth. Which is that I betrayed her because I loved her. Because I couldn't watch her family die knowing I could have stopped it. Because I'm too weak to choose the right thing when the cost is that high. Natalie moved closer, studying his face in the candlelight. The bruises were fresh. Defensive wounds on his knuckles. Who did this to you? My father's men. When I refused to bring you to him. When I told him I was done being his weapon. He touched his split lip gingerly. Turns out loyalty only matters until you stop being useful. Claire said you turned yourself into the FBI. That was the story we planted. To make my father think I'd cracked. To buy us time. Us? Agent Chen is real. But she's not Vincent's niece. She's been my handler for 18 months. Everything I've been doing, every favor I've done for my father, I've been documenting. Recording. Building a case. He pulled out a phone, showing her files and files of data. This is 3 years of evidence. Enough to put him away for life. Then why haven't you? Because every time we got close, he'd move. Change patterns. Someone was leaking information from inside the FBI. Damien's jaw tightened. We couldn't move until we identified the mole. And have you? Yes. 3 hours ago. He showed her a photo. A man in an FBI jacket. Agent Marcus Webb. He's been on Vincent's payroll for 5 years. Chen is moving to arrest him tonight. Natalie's head spun. So the plan is still on? We testify against your father and go into witness protection? No. The word came out flat. Final. The plan changed when I realized I couldn't do that to you. What are you talking about? Witness protection means giving up everything. Your firm. Your reputation. Your identity. Living in fear, always looking over your shoulder, never knowing if today's the day they find you. He stepped closer. I've been running that calculation for 2 years. But I was running it alone. The moment you walked into my life, the equation changed. I'm willing to give it up. For you. For us. I know you are. That's why I can't let you. His hand cupped her face with devastating gentleness. You're extraordinary, Natalie. You build spaces where people become their best selves. You create beauty in concrete and steel. I'm not letting you throw that away for a man who deals in shadows and violence. That's not your choice to make. No. But this is. He pulled out an envelope. Thicker than the first one. Everything's here. Evidence against my father. Recorded confessions. Financial records. My full testimony. But more than that, a signed statement that you were an unknowing victim. That I manipulated you from the beginning. That you have no culpability in any of this. Horror dawned. No. Yes. His voice was gentle but immovable. When Agent Chen arrests Vincent tomorrow, she'll use this. You'll be cleared. Your reputation intact. Your life continues exactly as it was. And you? I take the deal Chen offered me. Full testimony in exchange for 20 years reduced to 7. Maybe less with good behavior. 7 years in prison. The words barely made it past her throat. 7 years knowing you're safe. That you're building your beautiful buildings. That you're living the life you deserve. He pressed the envelope into her hands. That's worth any price. Don't do this. Tears streamed down her face. We can run. Right now. Both of us. I don't care about my firm or my reputation. I care about you. You say that now. But in a year, 2 years, when you're working under a fake name in some small town, designing strip malls instead of skyscrapers, you'll resent me. You'll hate what I took from you. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, tasting her tears. I can survive you hating me. I can't survive destroying you. This is my choice. And I'm making mine. He pulled back, his eyes bright with tears. For once in my selfish, violent life, I'm choosing something that's not about my survival or my freedom. I'm choosing you. The church door exploded inward. Vincent Moretti stood in the entrance, flanked by 6 armed men. Water dripped from his expensive coat. How touching. His voice echoed in the empty space. My son, playing hero. It's almost convincing. Damien moved in front of Natalie instinctively. Father. This doesn't concern you anymore. Everything about you concerns me. You're my blood. My investment. My property. Vincent's smile was a razor. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about your little FBI arrangement? About Agent Chen? Damien's face went white. If you've hurt her. She's alive. For now. Leverage, son. Always maintain leverage. He gestured to his men. Bring me the woman. 2 men moved forward. Damien stepped between them, his body a wall. No. No. Vincent's laugh was cruel. You don't get to say no. Not anymore. Not after 18 months of betrayal. Not after trying to destroy everything I've built. Everything you've built is poison. It's corruption and blood, money and lives destroyed for profit. I'm not protecting that anymore. Then you're not protecting anything. Vincent pulled out a gun. Aimed it at Natalie. Step aside, or I remove what you're trying to protect. Time seemed to slow. Natalie saw the calculation in Damien's eyes. The moment of choice. He could step aside. Give her to Vincent. Save himself. Or he could do what he'd failed to do with Jessica. He could choose love over survival. No, Damien said again. Firm. Final. You want her, you go through me. Vincent's expression didn't change. If you insist. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Damien's body jerked. He stumbled backward into Natalie's arms, red blooming across his white shirt. Damien. Her scream tore through the church. Disappointing. Vincent lowered the gun. I raised you better than this. Love is weakness. I thought you'd learned that lesson. Damien coughed, blood on his lips. But his hand found Natalie's, squeezing weakly. I learned that some things are worth dying for. How poetic. Now move, or the next bullet goes through you into her. Natalie felt Damien's weight against her, felt his blood warm and wet against her hands. She looked at Vincent Moretti and saw something that finally made sense. Not a villain. Just a small, terrified man who'd built an empire because he'd never figured out how to build a relationship. You can't kill both of us, she said quietly. The FBI knows we're here. They're probably outside right now. You shoot either of us, and you'll never make it out of this church. Vincent's eye twitched. Bluffing. Am I? She pulled out her phone. On the screen, a call still active. A number labeled Agent Chen. I called her the moment I walked in. She's heard everything. For the first time, Vincent Moretti looked uncertain. The sound of sirens in the distance confirmed it. You lose, father, Damien rasped. Finally. You lose. Vincent's face twisted with rage. He raised the gun again. But the FBI burst through the door, weapons drawn, voices shouting commands. In the chaos, Vincent tried to run. His men scattered. Gunfire erupted, deafening and terrible. Natalie covered Damien's body with her own, feeling him shake beneath her. When the shooting stopped, Vincent Moretti lay on the church floor, bleeding from a leg wound. His men were on the ground, hands behind their heads. Agent Chen knelt beside Natalie and Damien. Ambulance is 2 minutes out. Stay with me, Cross. Natalie. Damien's voice was fading. The envelope. Promise me. Don't talk. Save your strength. Promise me you'll build something beautiful. Something that matters. Don't let this. Don't let me be the reason you stop creating. You're not dying. You hear me? You don't get to sacrifice yourself and leave me here. His smile was weak but genuine. I told you. Dormant, not dead. Sometimes we just need. Someone to remind us. His eyes closed. Damien. She shook him, desperate. Damien, stay with me. The paramedics arrived, pulling her away, working on him with efficient urgency. Agent Chen put a hand on Natalie's shoulder. He gave us everything. Vincent's entire operation. It's over. Is he going to make it? I don't know. But he gave himself a fighting chance. That's more than most men in his position can say. They loaded Damien into the ambulance. Natalie climbed in after him, refusing to let go of his hand. I've never truly loved before, she whispered to his unconscious form. And now that I have, you better not leave me. You hear me? You don't get to make me feel this much and then disappear. His fingers twitched in hers. So slight she almost missed it. But it was enough. As the ambulance raced through the rain-soaked streets, Natalie held tight to both his hand and the envelope. Evidence of his crimes. Proof of his redemption. And a chance at a future neither of them had expected to survive to see. The monitors beeped steadily. His chest rose and fell. And Natalie made a promise to the unconscious man beside her. If he lived, she'd build something beautiful. Something that honored the sacrifice he'd made. Something that proved love was stronger than fear, even when fear wore the face of a father and love came wrapped in blood and broken glass. She'd design a space where broken things could become whole again. Starting with herself. Starting with him. Starting now. 3 months later. Natalie stood in front of the glass wall of the hospital rehabilitation center, watching Damien work through his physical therapy. The bullet had collapsed his lung and fractured 2 ribs, but he'd survived. Barely. The doctors called it a miracle. Natalie called it stubborn. He saw her watching and offered a pained smile. She pressed her hand against the glass. He mirrored the gesture from the other side. Later, when the session ended, she met him in his room. He moved carefully, each breath still an effort. You don't have to come every day, he said, lowering himself onto the bed. You have a firm to run. Had. She sat beside him. I sold it. His head snapped up. What? I sold Winter Designs. Got a good price too. Enough to start over. She pulled out a folder. I've been designing something new. Want to see? He took the folder, confusion and concern warring on his face. But as he looked at the blueprints, his expression changed. Wonder replaced worry. This is extraordinary. It's a community center. For kids in underserved neighborhoods. Architecture classes, design workshops, spaces to create and dream. Her voice caught. I'm calling it the Cross Foundation. Natalie. His eyes filled. You can't put my name on this. I'm a criminal. A convict. You're a man who chose love over survival. Who took a bullet to protect me. Who gave up everything to stop a monster. She took his hand. And you're the reason I remembered why I became an architect. To build spaces where broken things become whole. I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you. Lucky for you, love isn't about deserving. It's about choosing someone anyway. She kissed his forehead. Agent Chen worked out a deal. With your testimony, Vincent got life without parole. 37 of his associates are going down with him. And you ... 7 years minimum security. I know. He looked at the blueprints again. That's a long time for you to wait. Who said anything about waiting? She pulled out another document. I can visit. We can write. And when you get out, assuming you want to, you'll have a job. Director of the Cross Foundation. Teaching kids from backgrounds like yours that they don't have to follow in their father's footsteps. He stared at her, disbelief and hope and love tangled together. You'd still want me? After everything? I fell in love with the man who cried while sending me away to protect me. The man who chose my safety over his freedom. The man who saw me when I'd forgotten how to see myself. She cupped his face. That man is worth waiting for. I'm broken, Natalie. In ways that 7 years won't fix. Then it's a good thing I specialize in renovations. She smiled through tears. We'll figure it out. Together. One day at a time. He pulled her close, careful of his injuries. I don't know what I did to deserve you walking into that ballroom. You were there. You saw me. You reminded me that I was more than my blueprints and deadlines. She rested her head against his shoulder. You reminded me how to be human. They sat in silence, watching the city lights begin to glow as evening fell. Tell me about the foundation, Damien said softly. Tell me everything. So she did. She told him about the classrooms designed to catch the afternoon light. The studio spaces where kids could experiment with architecture and design. The community gardens on the roof. The gallery where their work would be displayed. And there's a library, she finished. With a reading room overlooking the river. I thought we could name it after Jessica. The Jessica Hartman Memorial Library. His breath caught. You'd do that? She deserves to be remembered as more than your father's victim. As the woman who inspired you to finally fight back. As someone who mattered. Thank you. The words were barely audible. A knock at the door interrupted them. Agent Chen entered, professional as always, but with something softer in her expression. Sorry to interrupt. Just wanted to update you both. The last of Vincent's network was dismantled this morning. It's officially over. You're safe. Both of us? Damien asked. Both of you. Vincent's in Supermax. He'll never see daylight again. She handed Natalie a card. This is the prosecutor on your case. She'll want to go over your testimony one more time before Damien's sentencing hearing. When is that? 2 weeks. Judge Harriet Morrison. She's tough but fair. With the cooperation agreement and the evidence Damien provided. Chen paused. There's a chance she might reduce the sentence further. Maybe 5 years instead of 7. After she left, Natalie felt Damien's hand tighten on hers. 5 years is still a long time. Then we better make every visit count. The sentencing hearing was held in a courthouse that smelled of old wood and older justice. Natalie sat in the front row, hands clasped tight, as the judge reviewed Damien's case. Mr. Cross. Judge Morrison's voice was firm. You've cooperated extensively with federal prosecutors. Your testimony has dismantled a criminal organization that's operated in this city for 50 years. However, you also participated in that organization's activities. You enabled violence, even if you didn't commit it directly. Damien stood, shoulders straight. I understand, Your Honor. Do you? The judge leaned forward. Because I'm not sure you do. You were born into privilege. Given every advantage. And you used those advantages to help a monster maintain his power. The fact that you eventually chose a different path doesn't erase the damage done. No, Your Honor. It doesn't. However. The judge glanced at the papers before her. I've also read testimony from the women and children your father threatened. Testimony about how your cooperation saved their lives. How your evidence protected them from retaliation. She looked at Natalie. And I've read Miss Winter's statement about the man you became when everything was on the line. Natalie held her breath. The prosecution recommends 7 years. But I'm reducing it to 4. With good behavior, you could be out in 3. The judge's expression softened slightly. Use that time wisely, Mr. Cross. Become the man you pretended to be. The man Miss Winter believes you can be. I will, Your Honor. I promise. As they led Damien away in handcuffs, he looked back at Natalie. Mouthed 3 words. She mouthed them back. 4 years. It felt like forever and no time at all. 3 years, 6 months, and 14 days later. Natalie stood outside the prison gates, her heart hammering against her ribs. The morning sun was just beginning to warm the air. In her hand, she held a single key. The gates opened. Damien walked out in civilian clothes, a bag over his shoulder, his eyes scanning the parking lot until they found her. They met in the middle. No running. No dramatic embrace. Just two people who'd fought through fire and blood and time to get to this moment. "Hi," he said. "Hi yourself." She held out the key. "Ready to go home?" "Where's home?" "Wherever we are." She smiled. "But I was thinking we'd start at the foundation. There's someone who wants to meet you." They drove to Brooklyn, to a renovated warehouse that now housed the Cross Foundation. Kids spilled out of classrooms, their projects cluttering the bright, open spaces. Inside, a woman with dark hair waited. Older than in the photograph. Tired around the eyes. But alive. "Jessica." Damien's voice broke. "Damien." She stepped forward, hesitant. "I got Natalie's letter." "About what really happened?" "About why you ... She couldn't finish. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "For everything." "I know." And then, impossibly, she hugged him. "Thank you for her life. For Emma's life. For choosing us." "How is she?" "Emma?" "Smart. Stubborn. Wants to be an architect." Jessica smiled through tears. "She's here, actually. Natalie's been mentoring her." A girl of about 10 appeared, all dark curls and curious eyes. "Mom, is this him?" "This is Damien," Jessica confirmed. "The man I told you about." Emma studied him seriously. "My mom says you saved our lives." "Your mom is very generous with the truth. She says you gave up everything so we could be safe. That's what heroes do in stories." Damien knelt to her level. "Heroes don't make the choices I made. They don't participate in the things I participated in. But maybe ... maybe people can be broken and still do one good thing. Maybe that one good thing doesn't erase the bad, but it matters anyway. Miss Winter says architecture is about building from the foundation up. Even if the foundation is cracked, you can still build something beautiful on top of it." Emma held out her hand. "Want to see what I'm designing?" He took her small hand in his. "I'd love to." As Emma dragged him toward the studios, chattering about load-bearing walls and natural light, Natalie and Jessica stood together. "Thank you," Jessica said quietly. "For loving him enough to see past what he was. For believing in what he could become. Thank you for letting him try." Natalie watched Damien laugh at something Emma said. "For giving him a chance to be more than his father's son. Are you happy?" Natalie considered the question. "I'm building something real. Something that matters. With someone who sees me. Really sees me." She smiled. "So yes. I'm happy. Even with all the cracks and broken pieces. That's all any of us can ask for, isn't it? Happiness despite the damage." That night, Natalie and Damien stood on the rooftop garden of the foundation, the city lights spread before them like fallen stars. "I can't believe you built this," Damien said. "In 3 years, you created something extraordinary." "We created it. Every design choice was with you in mind. What you'd want. What you'd need." She leaned against the railing. "Besides, I had good motivation. Someone once told me that architecture is about creating spaces where people can become who they're meant to be." Smart guy. He had his moments. She turned to face him. "So. What now?" "Now we figure out who we are. Together. Without guns or fathers or FBI agents." He pulled her close. Now we get to be boring and normal and build a life that doesn't involve criminal empires or witness protection. Sounds perfect. Yeah. He smiled, and it was the smile from that first night in the ballroom. The one that had cracked open her carefully constructed world. Even though I'm an ex-convict with PTSD and trust issues? Even though you're also the man who took a bullet for me. Who chose love over survival. Who spent 3.5 years in prison doing every therapy program they offered because you wanted to be better for me. For Emma. For yourself. She kissed him softly. That's the man I fell in love with. That's the man I waited for. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that. Don't try to deserve it. Just live it. She rested her head on his shoulder. Build it with me. One day, one choice, one moment at a time. Below them, the foundation hummed with potential. Kids learning that they could create something from nothing. That their past didn't define their future. That broken things could become beautiful with the right foundation. Tell me something, Damien murmured. That night in the ballroom, when I asked what kind of life you were creating for yourself, what would you say now? Natalie smiled. I'd say I'm creating a life worth fighting for. Worth sacrificing for. Worth all the fear and pain and uncertainty. She looked up at him. I'd say I'm creating a life with you. He kissed her then, slow and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. I never truly loved before, he whispered against her lips. Not until you walked into that ballroom in an emerald dress and reminded me what it meant to be human. And I never truly lived before. Not until a man with shadows in his eyes saw through every wall I'd built and reminded me what it meant to feel. They stood together as the city night deepened, two broken people who'd found wholeness in the fractures. Who'd learned that love wasn't about perfection or deserving. It was about choosing someone despite the damage. About building something beautiful on a cracked foundation. About remembering that even in the darkest moments, spring was possible. Damien pulled her closer. Thank you. For what? For seeing me. For waiting. For building this extraordinary thing while I was learning how to be better. His voice cracked. For not giving up on us when every rational thought said you should. Us was never the question, Natalie said firmly. It was always about timing. About becoming people who could hold what we'd built. She smiled through tears. We're ready now. Finally ready. So what do we build next? She looked at the foundation below, at the city beyond, at the man beside her who'd fought through darkness to find light. Everything, she said. We build everything. And in the space between heartbeats, in the quiet moment before tomorrow, they began. The end.